Meeting to order at 6:17 p.m. This is a regular meeting of the Peralta Community College District Board of Trustees for October 24th, 2023. And we will start with our Pledge of Allegiance. And I'm going to ask Trustee Johannes if you'd like to guide us this time. Thank you, Trustee Johannes. Let's move to roll call.
Student Trustee Masson?
Here.
Trustee Withrow?
Here.
Trustee Johannes?
Here.
Trustee Gonzalez-Ewan? Oh, not there yet. Trustee Napoli-Bellarice?
Here.
Trustee Gonzalez-Brito?
Here.
Trustee Quinlan?
Here.
Trustee Delphine-Polk?
Here.
You have a quorum.
Okay, we will move to 3.4 affirmation of the statement of cooperation. Over the course of the last 2 years, we, the PCCD Board of Trustees, have been engaging in a process of reflection to improve our effectiveness as a board. As a result, we have conducted a critical review of our work over the last several years through a formal self-evaluation and established meaningful goals. We have adopted a statement of cooperation that codifies our commitment to set the bar for excellence in governance and community college leadership, and to lead by example for our Peralta colleges. The full statement is attached to the agenda, but in summary, we have committed to build trust and seek to understand each other, to be prepared and follow good governance and ethical protocols, and model the behavior we want others to exhibit. We therefore commit to honoring and upholding these commitments in words and action. We will now move to 3.5, report of action taken in closed session. VP Quinlan, do we have anything to report? I don't believe we have
Not
anything
right
to
now.
report. Okay. Thank you, VP Quinlan. Let's move to 3.6, approval of the agenda. Motion, please.
So moved.
Thank you. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Trustee Johannes. And we will move to roll call.
Student Trustee Masson?
Yes.
Trustee Withrow?
Aye.
Trustee Johannes?
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez-Ewan?
Yes.
Trustee Napoli-Bellarice?
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez-Brito?
Yes.
Trustee Quinlan?
Yes.
Trustee Delphine-Polk?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you. Let's move to 3.7, approval of the minutes.
So moved.
Thank you, Trustee Withrow. Second, please.
Second.
Thank you, Trustee Gonzalez Brito. No discussion. Let's move to roll call.
Student Trustee Masson?
Yes.
Trustee Withrow?
Yes.
Trustee Johannes?
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez-Ewan?
He says yes.
Thank you. Trustee Gonzalez-Brito?
Yes.
Trustee Napoli-Bellarice?
Yes.
Trustee Quinlan?
Yes.
Trustee Delphine-Polk?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's move to 3.8, Associated Student Government Reports. Do we have anyone with us?
Hello, I'm Christian. I'm the ASBCC president. Good afternoon, everyone. Nice to be here again. So starting off my report, the ASBCC Executive Council had kind of like a check-in meeting with our BCC, with our newly elected, congratulations, BCC President Denise Richardson, last Friday, I believe, where we essentially kind of spoke out about things we were seeing on campus, whether that be things that we are seeing to be working in terms of student engagement on campus, or things that we need to have issues on. It was a very insightful meeting. We got tons of feedback, communication, collaboration, stuff like that on the ideas that we shared. Kind of just an example, like among many other things we discussed, we probably the most significant thing we talked about was an open computer lab for students on the BCC campus, which is something that we do not have right now. So yeah, it's pretty exciting. Second, I am currently reaching out to students mainly in the ASBCC Council to participate in kind of like a focus group to improve the BCC website, which is something that we've been wanting to do for some time. It definitely needs revamping, and we're currently working on that right now to have the BCC website done by I believe next fall. So yeah, fall 2024. So yeah, and then this students could kind of just share ideas to improve the website, things they're seeing kind of is lacking in the organization, stuff like that. And then lastly, some more BCC kind of stuff. I'm working with other ACE-BCC colleagues and BCC staff mainly to create kind of like a BCC club newsletter in accordance with the events calendar on the website that we already have. And I think, or we hope that this will kind of increase student engagement on the BCC campus. And yeah, perfect timing for this because club activity on campus now is starting to skyrocket with events being kind of done more and more over the coming weeks. So yeah, that should be exciting. I believe that concludes my report. Yeah.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else who wishes to give a report at this time? Okay, hearing and seeing none, we will move to 3.9, Peralta Classified Senate Report.
Okay, there we go. Good evening. Good evening, Board President Delphine Polk, Board of Trustees, Chancellor Jackson, our PCCD colleagues, students, and community members. Over the next several days, the anticipation and angst of knowing who will take over the top senior executive position for this district will be front and center, the otherwise talk of the town. It has not gone unnoticed that every one of the 4 candidates has a history at Peralta. One might even draw the conclusion that unless a candidate has been employed at Peralta, they are deemed unqualified. Obviously, this is it's not as simple as that. And to be fair, some would and have argued that Peralta needs a strong leader with an outside perspective. Hopefully, at least one of our 4 candidates can leverage their inside Peralta and the outside perspectives for a sensible and strategic leadership for many years to come. Neither I or the Classified Senate are going to pretend to tell you how to make your decision. And in fact, when you perform Google queries such as how to hire successfully, there are all sorts of advice and tidbits, as well as common themes that have resonated in these Board of Trustees meetings by way of your hiring consultants. It seems that hiring is less a science and more of an art. The Senate submitted 4 questions for consideration in tomorrow's forums. We would have submitted a 5th or even more were it not the case that there is only about 45 minutes per candidate to be on stage. And therefore, of course, there are other constituent groups who have their own concerns and priorities. But if we can provide a couple of reminders for our Board of Trustees, they might be as follows. One would be, don't rush your decision. Many feel that this decision of who will lead us is existential to Peralta's future as a higher education institution for the Bay Area. Number 2, sincerely seek input from others and thoroughly evaluate the applicants so that you are confident in your decision. We don't know what we don't know, but we should try to find out. It's typically the job of human resources to check references, but all of us in this day and age of the internet have some ability to conduct reference checks. So I suppose those are 3 pieces of advice. We're now going to turn to just a couple of campus reports, starting with Laney's Senate report from Ms. Hope Lane. Ms. Lane reports that the Laney Classified Senate would like to thank everyone for participating in our mid-semester flex entitled Plan, Plant, and Refresh events. We had over 60 classified professionals in attendance. During the event, we, in terms of planned, the Senate shared updates and the success of the Caring Campus, including name badges distributed in August, Ask Me buttons, and Laney administrative contact information booklets. William Jones of IT was recently appointed to their district ed committee. Jacqueline Trotter, Culinary Arts, has graciously expressed interest in becoming a senator and plans on attending the next meeting in November to be appointed to the Senate. In terms of what was planted, Cynthia Roberts of Sensational Succulents facilitated the planting and caring of succulent plants. Classified professionals also decorated pots. We discussed the correlation between growing our own and growing our plants. And lastly, in terms of what was refreshed, Katrina Santos, Senate VP, led a yoga session to start the event. It was the first time that some had ever participated in a yoga activity. The Senate hopes she will continue to lead a class once a month in the spring, as they found the session a much-needed self-care tool. Corey Hollis, a Laney alum, and Christina Henry provided over 30 massages to attendees. Alma Gomez, counselor, created a mindfulness and wellness handout for all to revert to for self-care throughout the workday. Some thank yous from the Senate include the Planning Committee, Kanetta Harnett, Janice Brown, Katrina Santos, Chelsea Young, Kim Kale, and Arlene Luntock for their hard work and efforts in planning the event. We could not have pulled this off without you. Student workers Louisa Benson, April Haynes, Patricia Maldonado, Dre Sanchez, and Ariana Moore graciously assisted with setup and staffing our sign-in table. The PD committee, Heather Cisneros and Reginald Constant, for a hearty lunch. Laney Food Services Culinary for allowing us to use the bistro to hold our event. And lastly, thank you to Laney IT and the custodial group for assisting before and after the event. Lastly, the Laney Senate would like to call attention to a Halloween event. It is festivities for Laney's Children's Center. It's occurring on Tuesday, October 31st. Bring treats and show your support. Friendly costumes encouraged but not required. and it will be held at the Laney Field House. Please contact Kanetta Roberts, that's kroberts@peralta.edu for more information. And the second and last canvas report will be from Berkeley City College by way of Tom Rizzo and myself. As previously reported, an ad hoc committee on professional development has consistently met on a weekly basis for almost a month now. In collaboration with the faculty PD committee, the ad hoc committee took on and met the challenge of last-minute planning for our mid-semester flex day, which occurred last Wednesday. While there was a mutual interest in certain activities, like examining AI in higher ed, there were two notable events for classified professionals. The first was a session called Are You Financially Healthy?, presented by Patelco Credit Union, which was surprising to some to have been a very enlightening session that even went into overtime. The second event was a workshop discussion and survey on the topic of professional development for classified professionals. What's clear is that PD is quite different for classified than it is for faculty, for the most part. How those differences play out is expected to come to light in the following weeks and months to come. I'd like to close tonight by saying that it has come to our attention that Natasha Spivey of Human Resources has been hired and hopefully approved tonight as the Professional Development Coordinator for the district. Congratulations, Natasha. The Senate very much looks forward to your contributions and insights on this important matter for classified professionals and the district as a whole. That concludes my remarks for tonight. Thank you, good luck, and good evening.
Thank you very much. We will now move to the Academic Senate report, and we have President Goldstein here.
Thanks, folks. Matthew Goldstein, President of the District Academic Senate. On the eve of the Chancellor Forums, I wanted to share a few thoughts about the process the district has set up to hire its new leader. It's a process that's been adjusted over the last several months in ways that appear designed to kind of increase board and district office control over the process and reduce staff, faculty, and student participation. And I should stop here and say that I'm going to rehearse a set of arguments that you've all heard me make before in this room. So in many ways, this rehearsal is for the four folks who will be here tomorrow and who are presumably watching tonight's proceedings. Well, one of them's in the room, but the other three are probably tuning in on YouTube as we speak. And this is mostly for their benefit because, as I say, I suspect most folks here have already heard this a number of times. So first, changes to BP 2431 added 3 members of the Board of Trustees to the Chancellor's Screening Committee. Historically, the board has had to decide from among candidates that were sent to them by reps of district constituent groups. The old approach that we've moved away from entrusted more discretion to faculty, staff, students, administrators, folks on that screening committee. And for sort of obvious mathematical democratic reasons, the majority of Peralta folks prefer that more balanced approach. Also part of the revisions to BP 2431, which I believe took place in April, was the making optional of site visits to the home districts of the finalists for the chancellor position. This change, of course, means that the board has the option not to hear from folks who worked closely with the candidates for the top job at our district. And faculty hope that the board will exercise this option in the weeks to come, but it understands, of course, that making that option an option means that it's less likely to happen. So that's all to say, we encourage the board to take advantage of this possibility and visit the home districts of the finalists. The decision not to hold direct unmediated Q&A sessions between the finalists and members of the public doesn't really sit well with the community or with faculty or with staff. Remember, the chancellor's job is a highly public one, so it would sort of make sense to toss the candidates into a rough and tumble with the folks who will be working with the chancellor in the future. It would be a good test. And in any case, I think it's a truer reflection of what people understand by public forum when there's an actual public, unmediated, unfiltered interaction among the chancellor candidates and members of the public. Finally, and I'm hoping for some news on this front, the announcement that came out from President Delphine Polk about the forums, which of course will be tomorrow, included a note that the videos and comment forums would be available for just 24 hours following the event here in the boardroom. And as I've expressed to many folks here, 24 hours are far too few to get thoughtful input from members of the community. So I've been in conversation with various folks around the district in the hopes that we can extend that. I've argued for a full week of both video postings and time to make comments. I'm hopeful again that there will be some movement on this front, and maybe there'll be a happy announcement presently on that point. Let me add that I do appreciate the responsiveness of the folks I've been lobbying on these issues over the last several days. President Delphine Polk, Dr. Helen Benjamin, they have been responsive and listened and have been thoughtful in their responses. I know well that we're on a limited timeline, and I know too that the perfect is the enemy of the good. I still think we could do a heck of a lot better. And I feel like our faculty, staff, students, administrators, community members, and for that matter, the new chancellor, whoever that may be, deserve a lot better. Thanks a lot for your time. And I look forward to seeing everyone back here tomorrow.
Thank you, President Goldstein. We will now move to 3.11, public communications on matters that are not on the agenda. Do we have any speaker cards, Mark?
Yes, ma'am, we do.
Oh, thank you.
I have a few here in my hand.
Okay, thank you.
We'll start with Jim Cates.
Good evening, board. My name is Jim Cakes, and I'm here to talk about your cybersecurity program. I'm here representing SICE, which stands for the Consortium of Systems, Information Systems Executives. And we've been working with Merritt since 2014, building the cyber program. It's kind of like what I call a labor of love. The Silicon Valley executives give back to the public domain. It's a group of about 80 companies and lecturers that work with the professors in creating this program. We worked with Merritt and actually created the meta plan for the first degree in the junior colleges in the state of California in 2014. So I don't know how many of you knew that. We have competed nationally. Your students have placed in the top 10% in the National Cyber League for the last 8 years. And that's with the top 400 or 500, just recently 3,000 teams. They came out number 19. And so we're continuing to expand that program into the community. And we're also committing to donate $85,000 to the program in terms of a Merritt Foundation fund that you have here to support the program. And you'll be receiving that check within the next 2 weeks. And so we want to continue working with the university. All right, so we want to continue working with the college to make this, it's already a nationally competitive program, and we want to make it even better. So thank you. Good evening.
Next, we have Jeff Sinceri, and Matthew Goldstein has ceded his time to Jeff.
There you go. It's not that long. So, Chancellor, board members, hello. I'll start by saying this quote: any set of laws, regulations, directives, or guidelines regarding the community college faculty and administrative qualifications, evaluation, hiring, or retention should promote the efforts of local community colleges to ensure that their faculty and administration consist of, among other things, administrators who can lead, organize, plan, and supervise, who understand the needs of faculty and the learning process, and who value institutional governance based upon a genuine sharing of responsibility with faculty colleagues. That was pretty much quoted directly from AB 1725, as some of you may know, a policy that was supposed to help reorganize community colleges into institutions of higher education, where there was the creation of a climate where energy was devoted to solving problems together. Our district leadership and our board, with its limited community college experience and lack of community college understanding, has taken us back, I feel, 10 steps from this hopeful space that we occupied maybe 5, 8, 9 years ago. I understand why some of the hostility exists between the administration and faculty, or even the board and its faculty. And a portion of it has to do with the fact that our faculty leaders, either in the Senate or in the faculty union where I am, made it a point to ask important yet difficult questions. And frankly, at the time, neither our district leadership nor our board was really up to the task. So, however, instead of seeing it as an opportunity to learn, it was decided that it was taken as disrespect. It was read as disrespect. And forgetting perhaps for a moment that respect is, something that's earned, not elected or appointed or even paid for. I'm disappointed, of course, but I'm done being surprised. Tomorrow, there's going to be a forum for candidates who are seeking to be the chancellor of our community college district and all of its employees and students. And the questions being asked will not be done freely. They have to be submitted in advance, then they'll be vetted, or they might be edited, and they'll be chosen by someone other than the person asking the question. The videos will be up for 24 hours and then taken down. And then the decision, after all the vetted questions and unasked questions, the decision as to who gets hired will be made by our board. And you've heard me say this before, 3 of whom are placed themselves on the search committee in the first place, which might be the first time in the history of our once democratic district. So back to the future indeed. To the candidates, wherever you are, camera, okay. If you've heard about the lack of trust and collegiality between the board administration on one side and the faculty, staff, and students on the other, you are seeing it here in real time. Through the machinations of the board and the actual board leader, who's a consultant, faculty and staff at the Peralta Community College District have been relegated to the role of somewhat active observers in the decision of who our next leader will be. Now, I want to reiterate, but in a different way, this is exactly the cycle of distrust and disrespect that we hope your leadership will break. One that muzzles faculty, dilutes or shuns any semblance of participatory governance, and turns dedicated faculty and staff into just, and I quote, employees.
10 seconds.
Yeah, I got to see the time. Thank you, though. So to our potential chancellor, you'll have a choice to make. If you become chancellor, you can either be known as the board's employee, or you can be known as the actual leader of a Peralta Community College District and its 4 campuses, faculty, staff, and students. Because I feel like our board has made it abundantly clear that you have to be one or the other. In the meantime, I think it might be wise to break with protocol maybe this time and tomorrow and answer questions freely as they are asked by all of us. Some of them will be easy and some will be difficult, but in doing so, you can demonstrate that you truly want to bridge the divide that's been created between the board, district, and the rest of us. Hopefully, we will all see that the larger point is that faculty, staff, and students are not to be feared, avoided, or ignored, but rather respected as integral parts of this institution of higher learning. Thanks.
Next, we have Richard Tholey.
Good evening. My name is Richard Tholey, SEIU 1021 Chapter President for Peralta Colleges. Just coming up tonight to advocate on behalf of our hourly members. we don't want to leave them behind. So we're in negotiations for our permanent contract as well as our temporary hourly employees or bargaining unit members. And it's been several decades, it looks like, since the hourly, or at least a decade since the hourly contract has been negotiated. And, you know, without getting into the issues too much, I just want to say that hourlies or temporary workers do the same work as permanent employees. However, they don't get the health benefits, nor do they get the same amount of pay as we do. And so that's something that, you know, it affects future employees, it affects current students, it affects past hourlies, because usually we have a pipeline from students to hourly workers or temporary workers, and many of those have the opportunity later to get a job as a permanent employee. But my experience when I came back a few years ago, and I will say that the experience, because of the communication between SEIU and the district, has gotten much better over the years. And it's been much more consistent, where back in 2018, we had, I don't know, upwards of almost 300 temporary employees. The last 5 years, it's been pretty stable at around, you know, 70 to 80. However, you know, my experience was on my first day of the job here, I came in to my job at admissions and records, where I had taken the position from an hourly who had also applied, but had been an hourly throughout the district for 8 years. And I'm bringing that up just to say that the district had a history of kind of pigeonholing our hourly employees and seemingly not giving them the opportunity to get permanent jobs. All that being said, like I said, it looks like it's been consistently better, but we don't want to leave our temporary workers behind, because like I said, they're often working almost year round as permanents. However, they don't get the same amount of pay, nor are they getting health benefits for it. So I'm just bringing that to your attention, because we are at the negotiating table for both permanent and temporary workers, and we're still not, it's not been resolved. And then the last point I want to bring up is I just want to congratulate the district and the work that shared governance did and SEIU in, the chancellor, I guess, that we did promulgate AP 7900, which is the remote work. That was something that SEIU initially negotiated with the district. And I want to say item 4.1 on the agenda as well, for the compensation and classification study, is something that SEIU also negotiated and had been something that we'd been pressuring the district to do since our change in leadership in 2018. So just on a good note, say that we're excited that that's finally happening. It's been almost 20 years since there's been a full comp and class study around the district. And although it is, I think the district is in a good measure taking advantage of the situation and making sure that it's done for management, confidentials, and classified. So we support that. And I'm just sending a reminder that those are things that SEIU has been pushing for and has negotiated. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Next, we have Teresa Peterson.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm a student of at Laney College, and I came to speak on the behalf of the disabled people and the disability that's going on up there at Laney College. We don't have the adequate things to get to and from our class. At one time, like last year for the semester, we had go-karts to take us to and from the class, from the front of the school to Eagle Village. And it's been a really hardship for us. We can't even get to class. Some students are taking their cars, trying to, they have to park on the street and still have to go down the hill to the classrooms. And we was trying to wonder why that we cannot park, right there behind, on Eagle Village property. To where that the arts center, then I made it to a point to where that they done cut off and made parking stalls for themselves. And then it also is a car over there now is blocking the emergency for the disability, as well as I've been taking Lyft to get to Eagle Village. Also, with my concern is about the elevator. They smell like urine. They're not sanitizing the bathrooms, and sometimes the disabled restrooms are being occupied by regular, people. Also, I had an incident up there going to the student store, the bookstore. It had a lining in the by the elevator, and my foot got caught. I have an aneurysm. By me quickly thinking and grabbing that bar in the elevator, I hurt my back, and I pulled the muscle. And they came the next day and pulled it up. But it's a lot of things that are really unsecure up there at the school. I know they're doing a lot of work on the schools, but they're also negligent. They are leaving tools, screws everywhere. Especially, I heard you guys was gonna start working with SAS of getting us a cart. We had they had 2 carts when we first started. Then they stole the carts. Then they had a cart that they had stored somewhere that was on flat. And then all of a sudden that stopped.
10 seconds.
Oh, I'm sorry. But we do need someone to come and assist us up there. I done went to the higher up and in the towers, they can't give me no answers, no nothing. So I'm bringing this to your attention. Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Next, we have Laney Gassis.
It's kind of difficult to talk about what I want to talk about after hearing that, and also just transparently as a member of a co-chair of the CE committee at Laney and a longtime senator, former Senate president as well. Really just the deep concern about facilities at Laney College and at all the colleges. But I actually am here tonight because I am very honored, actually, Laney Gastis, I'm the journalism department chair, tenured faculty. I am here to announce that the Citizen has been awarded the inaugural Freedom of Information Award from the Student Press Law Center and the University of Florida's Breckner Institute for the Advancement of the First Amendment. As you already know, the Citizen frequently uses public records to enhance their investigative reporting and has already drawn local and national recognition from industry superstars, from the Society of Professional Journalists, the Journalism Association of Community Colleges. And this award in particular, we were up against every college and every four-year university in the entire country who applied. The likes of very elite four-year institutions. So our little publication in Oakland, California is taking home a national award. And it's really just a testament to the students' persistence, their tenacity, dedication to covering all things Peralta, even when things are not so rosy, right? Because they believe that our community deserves truth and transparency. So as you can imagine, newsroom, everybody's over the moon. We're there since 8 o'clock this morning. Students are working on a comprehensive chancellor search package for the community that will be out in a couple days. And I just really wanted to come and announce, I am so proud, and I hope you'll join me in congratulating the students. There'll be a forthcoming press release and probably more media coverage. So thank you very much.
That is all the public comment we have for tonight.
Thank you. I did want to make a quick announcement, if I may take a moment. So Dr. Helen Benjamin and Dr. Cindy Miles, who are our search consultants, we all want to thank you very much, everybody, for your participation in our Chancellor search. I did want to let you all know that we have extended the viewing of the recording of the forums to this Saturday at noon. So we wanted to let you all know. We will be sending out something via email later tonight, but just wanted to let you all know that right now. So we look forward to your participation, and we appreciate everything that you do for our students and for our district. We will now move to 3.12, the Chancellor report. So Jeanette, Dr. Jackson, excuse me.
Thank you very much, President Delphine Polk, and greetings to the board, students, colleagues, and community members. As part of the Chancellor's report, I would like to start with IVC Smith to give a status of DGS projects that we have, and then followed by the campus presidents to provide a short update. And we'll start with Merritt College, Dr. Johnson, followed by College of Alameda, Dr. Barami, then Laney College, Dr. Besikoff, and we'll end with Berkeley City College, Dr. Richardson. So IVC Smith.
Thank you, Chancellor Jackson, and good evening, Board of Trustees. I'd like to reference you to the report that I provided to you in October at the last board meeting, October 10th, just giving you an update of the items that we've completed. I'm looking forward to coming back in November to give you a further update of all the items that we are continuously working on at this time. But tonight, I'd like to focus on the Laney heating, which we talked about and discussed at the September 26th board meeting. And I had made reference and requested that our vendors come back and get the heat going, or we've moved the dates up from Thanksgiving to a November 1st. That was our goal, to try to get that heat going for November 1st. There has been a Herculean task on trying to get those things moved up, even in that time period when we looked at the Thanksgiving, November 25th. I'd like to report that, let me give you a little bit of a background. In 2019, 2020, Gil Bain and PBK was hired for a design build to do a new CUP project, the Central Utility Plant for Laney College. It's a design build, and they are installing a new digital and manual system. This will replace the pneumatic and manual system that was installed in 1999. So it is an upgrade. The thing that these two systems have in common is the manual portion of that system. So that means that for a short period of time, it will be controlled manually until we can get the distribution. There are many parts of this system. First, it's the equipment installation. Then it's the distribution, which means that we will go back and make sure that the heat is distributed throughout the buildings. So it is DGS who's working on the distributions throughout the campuses. We've ordered new pumps, new motors to follow behind the completion of the installation of the equipment. We had anticipated that the ductwork for the exhaust for this new system would be delivered today. Unfortunately, there is a delay, and we anticipate that that delivery should happen by the end of this week. So I will still keep you abreast on what's going on. But DGS will continue its work in making sure that the pumps, the motors, and the exhaust to the buildings are working, and that we are working with our vendor who ESI, who is working on getting the all the wiring and the electrical up and running and ready for November 1st. We're still working for that delivery date, and we will then work with Swinnerton, PBK in Gilbane to get that completed. So that was just an update for the heating. So again, we are working as quickly as possible to make sure all of those items are coordinated. The installation of the equipment, the distribution to the buildings, the electrical system that it's working, and understand that because it's new system, it's a manual controlled system at this time until we can put a digital controlled system in. So we will be able to control the system, but it will be manually until the new digital controls can be put in at the buildings.
Dr. Jackson, I believe we do have some questions from the trustees.
Okay.
Trustee Gonzalez Juan.
Okay.
Thank you for that report. Chancellor, do you know when the system will be fully operational?
I don't, but I assume that IVC Smith has an update on that. And just a reminder, the board wanted a full update. This is just to give you a synopsis as we go along, but a full update will be available in November because we'll have some slides, we'll answer any questions, but this was just a short update. Go ahead.
We're focusing on the heat right now. So again, there's two parts to this central plan. It's the heating and the cooling. So right now our focus is getting the heat going. And as soon as we can get that heat in, we will focus on getting the cooling. So the heat was anticipated on being completed November 25th. We've moved it up to November 1st. Again, our vendors has told us that they've had difficulty getting things expedited. So we're trying to work with them, whatever we can do to help them get things expedited and delivered. So they will be working the first week of November to still get the exhaust put in and the equipment up and running. And we will work together with them. Following that, we will then see how we can update and move up the cooling portion of the CUP project.
So we're waiting for full digital control, but we'll have manual control, which will allow heat to be delivered to the campus buildings by, is it November 1st or the 25th? I was a little confused on that.
We're working on November 1st for manual controls. Now,
Okay.
understand that the DGS will be assessing how we can get the digital part of this functioning as quickly as possible. It will not be November 25th. We will have to control this manually until we can get the digital parts controlling installed.
And is it anticipated that the digital control will be, is that a 6-month project or is that like, now this is 30 days?
You know what, may I get back to you on those dates in November?
Okay. So then on the air conditioning side of it, on the cooling side, obviously that's not a huge issue at the moment. Do you have an estimated delivery for the AC?
At this time, the AC was anticipated being complete May 2024.
Okay. And remind us, what was the start date when we went out for bid on this project again? We started this when?
It started under Lisada in 2019-20. So it was a design build and they have been they started with Taylor Design, who did the criteria and the scope of work. And it was awarded then to Gilbane PBK as a design build. And we've been working with them to get it installed.
Okay. Chancellor, I think this is I can see the staff's working really hard. I'm really elated to hear that any old day now, we might actually have heat. And it strikes me that this is an example of either a widespread misunderstanding of how long things just take, or alternatively, it's a brilliant case study in how we can improve the delivery of building projects. Because it sounds like now this is coming on 4 years or four and a half years or something like that.
Um,
2 years.
2019?
Well, it started, again, it's the criteria started in 2019. It went out to bid. They were awarded in, I believe, 2020. So here we are.
So
I
4
think,
years.
I think your case study is relevant in both,
Yeah.
how long it takes and how difficult it is.
yeah,
And I'm not criticizing. Let
No,
me be
no,
really
no,
clear.
I-
I'm trying to
yeah,
say, this is a learning moment.
It-
When we get a lot of people who like, this is impossible, this is crazy, this is so unacceptable. There's a disjuncture in either the communication or the delivery, and we need to fix that so
Yeah.
that people aren't so pissed off.
well, and I believe to IVC Smith's credit, she has attended safety meetings on the campus, council meetings, cabinet meetings, provided the board with updates. But you also can't take it in isolation. You have to look at what was going on. We had a nationwide logistical stall during this period of time where things were not moving. We were lucky in that we ordered early before that hit, and we actually had the broilers sitting in the yard. We then submitted the request, and I'm just refreshing everyone's memory because this is being recorded. We then submitted to move forward with that, and we found that there were almost 20 years of failed completion by this district to submit paperwork to the Division of the State Architect. We had to clean up 20 years before they would allow us to move forward. So there's a lot of things that have stalled this, not for inaction, things that are beyond our control. And then I came on board in 21 and I made the appointment for IVC Smith at that time. So before that, we had 2 more people who laid hands on this project. And we're at least able to move it forward to bring it to completion within this academic year. So you're right, it could be a case study, but we also have to look at those external variables that we have no control over. And people tend to forget that. All they know is I'm cold, get me some heat.
And all that is in fact part of the case study.
Absolutely. You know of
I
a,
think there's probably nobody in this room who thinks that the situation has been acceptable. Like literally no one is satisfied. So we just need to learn better. I'm really appreciative of the report, of the ongoing reports, and elated that hopefully we'll have heat soon. Thank you very much.
absolutely. So Dr. Johnson, you're
All right,
next.
all right. Good evening, Chancellor, President Delphine Polk, trustees, colleagues, and community. Just have 2 items, gonna keep it quick. First, earlier this month, Ms. Frances Moy, who is our Student Accessibility Services Coordinator, had the opportunity to present at the statewide conference. It's called the California Association for Post-Secondary Education and Disability Conference. And actually it was in partnership with Laney, our sister college, and Nate Failing, who has the same role over there. They spoke about a new partnership between several entities, the Clausen House, I don't know if you're familiar with that, in Oakland. Oakland Unified's district, their young adult program, and the respective student accessibility services programs between Merritt and Laney. And this alliance, this partnership was made possible by another grant that we got, the federal grant, the Adult Transition Partnership Project Grant. And we plan to utilize those funds to develop programs for adults with intellectual disabilities transitioning from high school to college. And specifically together, Merritt and Laney are going to be working together to offer employment-related learning resource classes and certificates in art, music, and culinary arts. But what's most compelling about this initiative is that it really goes beyond just the traditional emphasis on learning hard skills that employers want. It focuses on the soft skills that are also very critical, as well as helping to inculcate essential life skills that individuals with intellectual disabilities will need to thrive. The second thing Jim Cates kind of stole my thunder. So just we had the opportunity last Thursday to attend an event. The chancellor, myself, some faculty, and some administrators related to CISE. And this has been an ongoing partnership. As he said, a labor of love. We appreciate him. I appreciated him even before that $80,000 check, but I'll take it. But we also had an event this past Friday, the Cybersecurity Employer Day event. It's one of our signature job fairs, and it really provides the opportunity for our recent graduates to connect with top rated cybersecurity firms or firms and institutions that need that expertise. So, and I mentioned before, Ronnie Lott gave a presentation. So we appreciate that as well. So in general, I just want to take this time publicly to say thank you to Jim Cates. Thank you to his partner in crime who's not here, Mark Egan. We appreciate you, and we couldn't do it without you. So thank you.
Good evening, President Delphine Polk, VP Quinlan, trustee members, Chancellor Jackson, fellow presidents, and PCCD colleagues, and members of the community. I'll keep it short. I'd like to focus on the mid-semester flex day at COA that took place on October 18th, and highlight one of the reports that is in the printed report that you have. The mid-semester flex day was amazing, and Professor Drew Burgess, who is the professional development chair and our art professor, has a special theme for us every flex day. This flex day, the theme was imagination. The day started with John Lennon's song, Imagine, with a renewed call for unity as the path to peace, and with Professor Danny Nguyen dancing, and invited all the COA members to join him to dance, and the people who could not dance join singing together. For the rest of the day, faculty, classified professional, administrators, and students work together, imagining a better and stronger COA family, focusing on workshops on identity talk, articulation, curriculum, zero textbooks, cybersecurity, SLO training, and we ended the day with yoga and body conditioning. The second item is to celebrate the implementation of for the COA Learning Aligned Employment Program, LAPE. COA is one of 2 colleges in the state of California to partner with the Foundation for California Community Colleges and implement this great internship program. We're delighted to announce the successful placement of our very first student intern, Ms. Reina Ware, who has embarked on a rewarding 10 weeks paid off-campus internship with Alameda Chamber of Commerce. Learning Aligned Employment Program enables us to connect our students with paid off-campus internship and connect us with local community. As a matter of fact, today we had the opportunity to meet with Saildrone, who is also looking at future internships. And this concludes my report. Thank you.
Good evening, Chancellor Jackson, Board President Delphine Polk, members of the governing board, colleagues in education, and of course, our valued community members and students. Just a very quick enrollment update for you this evening. We maintain our 8% year-to-date improvement over last fall, which is great. But behind the percentages, I just want to share that this increase at Laney College has meant 750 more students served this semester than a year ago. And if we want to talk about enrollment, which is the seats, the total seats that have been filled, 1,574 more seats. And I think that's, you always take positive numbers as good news. And we certainly do. And it's thanks to the work of so many. Also looking at evolving and kind of redefining ourselves, our basic needs center at Laney College. If you have an opportunity, please come and visit Katrina Santos up on the 3rd floor of the Student Center. As we move through this opening of the Basic Needs Center under her leadership, one of the things that we find ourselves doing is kind of saying what is basic needs and defining it in a great way. And in your board report this evening, you actually have a short write-up about 78 students who receive clothing as a result of the closet that we have through our Basic Needs Center. But as we move into looking at Vision 2030 at the State Chancellor's Office and our engagement of county services and social services to engage with our community colleges to better support our students, I think a lot of what we've seen with addressing basic needs such as clothing or childcare or other things that kind of are emerging more as we define it. I do think the conversation is going to be an evolving one as we move forward and try to serve our communities. Speaking of our communities, this coming Friday, Laney College looks forward to welcoming leadership from the Vietnamese Chamber of Commerce for the first times during my years at Laney as guests to our campus for a tour and a light lunch on campus just to discuss our ongoing collaboration. Certainly it was the least I could do after being welcomed to their last chamber mixer that they had. And it was a great opportunity to engage our community. And I really think throughout Peralta, starting with the multicultural chamber chairs of commerce that we have in Oakland and extending to the chambers of commerce in both Berkeley and Alameda, I think there are excellent opportunities out there to continue collaboration. This concludes my report.
Good evening, Chancellor Jackson, Board President Deanna Delphine-Polk, trustees, colleagues, students, and members of the community. On October 18th, we had a very successful Flex Day at Berkeley City College with presentation updates from our Senate and union representatives, as well as our administrative units. We also had an icebreaker that called upon us to identify whether we had achieved goals that we had established for ourselves at the previous Flex Day. And we had to grade ourselves. One of my goals was to go around and meet everyone in the college. I was largely successful the first time I went without anything. Second time I went around with cutie oranges. Third time I went around with chocolates. So what I learned was that people were a lot happier to see me when I brought chocolates. So I had to grade myself a B for taking that long to come with the candy. The highlight of the day was getting to break bread together and engaging in stimulating discussions around how we can best support our students. Some of the workshops were titled, Crying is Not Always a Crisis, Where to Direct Students in Need, How ILO Can You Go, Reimagining Institutional Learning Outcomes, Are You Financially Healthy, Culturally Responsive Pedagogies and Practices, and one of my favorite topics because it has become so integral to what we're doing in education right now, Possibility in Peril, AI in the Classroom. During this discussion, we were encouraged to learn innovative ways to adapt instruction to AI as we did with calculators and computers, which were introduced to the educational environment. Seeing AI as a tool and recognizing that there is no true substitute for human creativity and intelligence. On this coming Thursday, we will record our first podcast titled BCC Spotlight. For our first broadcast, we will provide information about what it means to be an HSI institution and hear from campus leaders who manage our HSI grants. We will also highlight the individuals who organize the exciting events of Hispanic Heritage Month and Undocumented Student Action Week. One of the speakers during the week was Carlos Eduardo Espina. With over 6 million TikTok followers, Carlos has amassed the power of social media to champion positive change and raise awareness about immigration issues. At the age of 24, he has already started 2 nonprofits in his home state of Texas. One of his major accomplishments was starting a soccer camp that was featured on the local news for serving hundreds of children who would not have otherwise had the opportunity. He got this idea when he saw businessmen offering a soccer camp for $400 to $500 for 3 sessions. And so he decided to take it upon himself to make this available for free for children within his own community. Because he was so compelling, I asked Carlos, I said, have you considered a career in public service? And his response was rather sobering. He says, well, you know, I've gotten a lot of death threats for the things that I'm doing, so I'm not really sure I want to go. I thought it was a very sad commentary in terms of where we are as a country. Last Friday morning, I had the privilege of meeting with the associate students of Berkeley City College, whose president is Christian Klichev and whose campus administrator is Associate Dean John Mullion. Both, by the way, are doing an amazing job. I wanted to find out from the students how the college administration could best support them. So we spent an hour together, and I could not have been more inspired with their priorities. They want to collaborate on ways to shift the perception of community college from a stepping stone to a destination campus of higher learning. They want to create a greater sense of belonging for students, and they want to collaborate with the city of Berkeley to host events and much more. They truly gave me hope for our future as they are on their way to being the kind of thoughtful, social justice focused leaders that we need so desperately at this time. Just today, we learned that the Campaign for College Opportunity has named Berkeley City College a 2023 champion and 2023 equity champion of higher education. BCC is being recognized. Thank you. Recognized for exemplary work in implementing the Associate Degree for Transfer, ADT, and for being a top performer in the following categories. Champion of Higher Education, Associate Degrees for Transfer awarded as a percentage of all associate degrees awarded, reflecting the percentage of total associate degrees awarded that were associate degrees for transfer in the 2021-2022 academic year. And as an equity champion for Black students, supporting at least 65% of Black associate degree earners on our campus to earn an ADT, as well as supporting these students to perform as well or better in this metric compared to the student body. Berkeley City College will be recognized at the virtual event, the 2023 Champions of Higher Education Celebration, on Tuesday, November 14th, 2023. We are extremely honored to receive this recognition and look forward to continuing to close equity gaps wherever they exist. This concludes my report for Berkeley City College.
Thank you very much, Presidents. I do have a comment, and I don't do this because we don't comment about information or items that are presented during the public forums, that I feel that there's a need for us to get this out to the disabled community. We hear what you're saying. We investigate thoroughly any complaints that we get, and in the case that was presented, it has been investigated, and we have made adjustments based upon that. So I would strongly urge the SAS office at each of the campuses, if there are issues regarding some of our disabled students, to please coordinate with the campuses, so that if it's something that needs to be addressed on a structural level, that goes to IVC Smith and the DGS office. If it's something just in terms of signage or custodial, that resides with the campuses. So just want to make that clear. I do want to end the report with something that we sent out, and it was entitled A Call for Peace and Respect. It's located on our webpage. It was part of our GEMS newsletter, and we received several positive responses to the announcement, but one of the more touching emails that we received in response to the statement regarding the conflict in Gaza was from an employee who stated what I feel sums up many of the reactions from colleagues throughout the district, and I'm going to read it to you. It says, "Please give an anonymous thank you to the presidents and chancellor for their kind, balanced, and supportive statement of inclusivity. I was beginning to feel unable to speak, and the conversation felt potentially unsafe for the first time among my beloved colleagues and community. This much needed statement provided many of us with a sense of belonging again." I want to thank those presidents, all of us who signed off on it. I want to thank the board for their support, and again, voice our concern about what's going on in Gaza and the innocent lives that are being taken. And you can also check our webpage if you'd like to see the full document. It is available on the splash page. So I conclude with the hope that we can come together internationally, and that this conflict can be resolved shortly. That is my fervent hope. Thank you.
Trustee Gonzalez-Yuen, you have a comment?
Thank you so much, Chancellor, for that. And I couldn't help but notice that for some reason I didn't get the original announcement. And I'm wondering whether our board colleagues were getting those announcements I think there's something wrong with the distribution system where trustees are not getting district-wide announcements and email and things like that. It would be really helpful for us to just keep up on basic stuff like that, district announcements, et cetera. And thank you again.
Yes, it's always great to hear the good things coming from our colleges. I just wanted to pose a question maybe for our next board meeting. It looks more and more like the possibility of a federal shutdown is going to come. And I'm wondering how it's going to impact our colleges. Maybe we can get some information at our next board meeting and things we can do to mitigate the possibilities of impact on our students.
Anyone else? Okay, Chancellor, I think we have no more questions or comments. Thank you. At this time, we will move to 4.1, our presentation on compensation and classification study. So Dr. McKinley, I'll go ahead and hand it over to you.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to introduce Stan McKnight with McKnight and Associates. As you might recall, McKnight and Associates have been awarded the contract to conduct our compensation and classification study. And Stan is here to give the board an executive overview of the project. And so, Sasha, if you could please bring his presentation up, that would be very helpful. And just
thank you, Ron.
Just push that button there on that mic.
Yes. Looks like I'm on. Good. Good evening, everyone. Thank you. This is, as someone said earlier, a long time coming as a study, but I promise you I won't take so long with the presentation. Just to give you a quick answer to one of your questions, this will take a year. It's a comprehensive study. We'll be back here in November of next year with the results. But let me give you a quick overview if we can. How do I advance the screen? Snap on.
You just ask Sasha, it's already been advanced. Just ask her to advance it for you, Stan.
Okay, very well, thank you. So I'll give you a quick study overview. There are some study phases involved in this. The proposed timeline, of course, is very important. Next slide, please. Just to give you a little bit about who we are, we're headquartered in Thousand Oaks, which is in Ventura County. Our consultants are all over California and also the country, however. We've been focusing very heavily in community colleges in California recently. And so we've had some experience with the classification compensation studies of many California community colleges. Advance this slide, please. There are two phases to the study. I'm going to give you a background on both of the phases very quickly. This is to remind you is all non-faculty classifications. There are 271 job classifications that cover the four colleges and the district office as well. The first phase is a classification study, which is really to collect and gather job information that we will use to update job descriptions. It is highly interactive phase with employees and supervisors collaborating with us and involved in the process. There will actually be a feedback session at the end of this particular phase to allow supervisors and employees to review the draft job descriptions we've created based upon information that we've collected. The second part is a compensation study, which basically read that as a market study, if you will. We will also develop salary ranges and communicate results and have an employee opportunity for appeals. Next slide, please. We're in the initial phase right now, which is compensation programs communicate through leadership in the organization. So we began with leadership in the orientation. So we started with the executive committee. We're meeting with you today to brief you on those matters. We've also scheduled or will schedule meetings with the collective bargaining unit reps coming up very soon. and the classified Senate as well. Communications is a very important part of this. We want to ensure that we have employee involvement. Supervisors are responsible also in this process. Forward to the next slide, please. So we just mentioned that we're doing an orientation training, which will also come down to all employees and supervisors at all 4 colleges and the district office. For supervisors, we're asking that as a mandatory principle that they attend the orientation sessions. What we have learned is that supervision is important in not only communicating the process, but in completing the job description phase and ensuring that there's collaboration with employees and submitting the information back to us. So there'll be an extensive session on that. There'll be also 2 sessions scheduled for employees. These will be held by Zoom meetings. And we'll also record it for those who cannot be present. Let's move to the next session. Step, please. The classification phase. Next slide, please. This is the job information collection phase, and our task is to update some 271 job descriptions for each of the classifications. No small thing. So we will be distributing position description questionnaires following the orientation sessions to all employees and supervisors. Actually, we'll be distributing through the supervisors initially. There also will be a opportunity for reviewing what we're doing with a committee, working committee, I presume made up of HR and perhaps others as well in the organization. We will review the job descriptions that we have updated with management and supervisors after we have updated them. There's something called the Fair Labor Standards Act that has to be looked at. Translation, the requirement for overtime. So there is a definition both for California and for the federal government, Department of Labor, that defines work that is subject to overtime as well as salary thresholds. So we will also do that to make sure that we're in compliance with all of our job classifications. Next slide, please. Compensation phase. We're looking at the what's called the Bay Area 10 peers. We will actually do an analysis of that group and perhaps others as well for the college. Make sure that we have identified benchmark institutions that we want to look and collect information from and about. We'll use published surveys, salaries and benefits as well. The key part of this, of course, is the salary market assessment, but there's also a benefits market assessment as well that we'll be doing. After we've completed that part of it, there will be, we will develop model salary structures, job ranking, placement of positions within the ranks. Next slide. We hope to collaborate with the internal team to define the appeal process at the very end. So we want to give employees an opportunity to ensure that McKnight got it right, so to speak. And so there will be an appeal for employees after we've completed the entire process. Now, bear in mind that employees have already been involved with the development of the job descriptions, in collaboration with supervisors, and also through orientations. But at the very end of the process, there is that employee appeal opportunity. Next slide. The implementation plan will be developed. Obviously, there is a cost factor involved in closing gaps that may exist. There's been a lot of salary movement, as I'm sure all of you are very, very well aware of, in the last 2 years among employers everywhere, including California. So we don't know what that's going to look like until we've done the market study, but there will be a cost analysis conducted and report prepared for that. Slide. Timeframe. So the classification phase kind of looks like this. We're in the process now of doing orientations with the various constituency groups. We will have that orientation for all employees and supervisors. We hope to do that the week of November 6th. We will then distribute position description questionnaires, which will be distributed via email, actually. And we'll begin the collection process, inviting employees and supervisors to collaborate in updating information and answering some 40 questions that's involved in the questionnaire. Obviously, it takes a while, so we're going to allow until the end of January for employees and supervisors to have the opportunity to review that. Then we will begin our update process of the information we've collected and updating the 271 job descriptions, if you will. That's quite an undertaking, but we expect to be finished with that by the end of May and begin job description feedback in June of that year. Complete our review of jobs that may need a realignment in the overtime policies. That's the classification phase. The next slide, please. And the final phase, of course, is the compensation piece. We will collect the benchmark information from the various benchmark institutions and other source information. We will undoubtedly look at non-higher ed information as well from the private sector when we're collecting salary information, because we have some jobs that are very sensitive to markets outside of higher ed. And so we'll complete that process and have salary models updated, salary ranges, and jobs assigned to them by August or the end of August. Be ready for employee appeals in September. Any updates that come from those appeals we'll follow that, hopefully completing that by the end of October. And we should be able to have our reports and presentations ready by November 2024. See if there's another slide yet. And that's it. So if there are any questions?
Thank you. Any questions? Oh, Trustee Gonzalez-Pinto, go ahead.
Hi, thank you, and congratulations to the classified staff for accomplishing getting this study going. Just have two questions, hopefully quick. In terms of the Federal Labor Standards Act, is there any indication that we may be in violation of that now, that there's certain jobs that are currently salary that should get paid overtime?
Personally, I cannot answer that. Okay. It was included in the RFP that we responded to. So we presume that there is some concern that we need to double check some jobs. Now, let me tell you that I've not been in a study yet in which I didn't find some jobs that over a period of time may have changed in such a way that they either should be exempt from overtime or should not be.
Does that create liability for the district as we go through that process?
Only if we do not reply and respond to it.
Okay. And then my second last question is, what does the appeals process look like? Who makes the decision on the appeals between the appeal and the appeal feedback? How does that get decided?
We intend to collaborate with the internal committee to define what is appealable. You don't want to just open up the whole world, but specifically decisions that have been made with respect to the study will be addressed to us, and we will reply to that. Obviously, the authority for that rests with the district and not with the consultant, but we will respond to it directly ourselves as well.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Reese.
Thank you for that presentation. I have, pardon the naivete. One more question.
Yeah, we have some more questions up here. No
That's okay. I was just getting clean away.
Yeah, no, not that easy. Clearly you're not familiar with this board.
Yes, ma'am.
So this question might be a little naive because I've never been through a compensation and classification study. My question then is, where does collect in that timeline that you just gave us to November of 2024, is there some point in there where the classifications and descriptions go through collective bargaining or negotiations? Again, this may be a very naive statement, and I know not, but is there a point when it needs to go through that?
Probably your human resource people can answer that more authoritatively.
Go ahead, Dr. Bentley.
I can answer that. So the unions, our union partners will be part of the study all the way through. So they will have input. They will be right there as a part of the team. There'll be members on that committee that Stan has talked about. We'll have union representatives on those committees. So they'll be there the whole way through. We're talking about the classified folks. That's Local 39 and SEIU 1021. You're welcome.
Trustee Gonzalez,
Again, thank you. So just following up on that, is the classification study or the classifications bargainable? Is that a bargainable issue, or is that?
It is a meet and confer issue.
Okay.
Yeah.
In regard to this study, I've never seen a study like this. So I'm, again, like my colleague, this is new to me. When you do this study, are you looking at specific positions? So for example, let's say you've got an A&R clerk at Merritt College. And are you looking at that job class, or are you looking at that particular position?
We'll be looking at each position.
Okay.
And but collectively in updating the job descriptions. And so that's why we're involving supervisors and employees directly, because we really want to know what's going on in the workplace, in the positions that comprise a particular job classification that allows us to update the job class description that is more inclusive. Now, we may find that there are some jobs that have changed so much that the classification itself changes.
Okay.
I mean, that's possible.
So,
And we're proactive on that.
So potentially, would this study reveal gaps in our capacity to perform the functions that are necessary for an employee to get their work done?
This is an opportunity for management and employees to get it right in terms of what's required of a job and to describe that. And hopefully, I wish this was a science, it's more of a social science. Artfully, we will come up with job descriptions that are up to date and representative of our jobs, which then allows us to benchmark those more appropriately in the market. So we will benchmark after we've completed collecting the information, updating the job descriptions, getting collaboration with employees and supervisors, getting their review of the draft before we even begin using it.
So we had a report done on management, for example, where the report came back and said, you're short here, you're long here, you could probably cut here. Would your study at the end of it help us understand staffing needs in a particular area better?
It will help you understand the jobs. We are not undertaking a staffing study,
okay,
if you will. So this is a study of the duties, the responsibilities of the jobs, an update of the job description, a comparison of the job to the marketplace, updating our salary schedules,
okay,
as we may need to do, and just streamlining that part of it. The whether or not there are too many or too few staff members in a particular job or area is not really a part of this study, but it does inform, I think, and illuminate management on what the work is about.
And is that something that if we had commissioned a different study, that your firm, would you do that kind of work? Or it's like, no, we really look at job function and do job description and relative compensation.
We do that kind of work, but let me tell you, that is very much like this study, it is a comprehensive study in itself.
Sure.
And it measures different things.
Okay. Last
I
thing
mean, you begin with a clean job description, and that's like the first step
yeah.
in understanding what the staffing needs are.
All right. So I'm just thinking proactively moving forward as we think about understanding the function of the district. This might lay the foundation for a future study that would in fact help us understand that.
I think it does. And also it brings supervision and management and employees, as well as the labor reps, into one direction on what the job is and what it's about. And then you can move on with other questions.
All right. Just two other quick questions. Does your firm also do work, that similar work in management, for management positions?
Yes.
Okay. And then the last thing is, we're in a really high cost area. You're going to be doing a market analysis for Bay 10. Does your compensation study then take into account cost of living? Are you looking and saying, well, here's what this position pays, but workers in the area have these costs for food, these costs for transportation, insurance, et cetera. And given the cost of living in this area, here's what we can say about the compensation. Is it adequate? Is it inadequate? Is that part of the scope of what you're doing?
Yes. Up front, we take that into consideration. Now, that is one of the hottest topics right now.
Sure.
With any employer and any employee group. And indeed, it's a challenge for us today. It's, but to come back to your question more specifically, geographic location is an important attribute in identifying the benchmark institutions that we want to compare ourselves to. We have a 4-year liberal arts institution right now that's looking nationally. Well, national benchmarks are very, very difficult right now because of the cost of living. We're a little bit more refined if we're comparing ourselves to other California community colleges. Okay, so that factor comes into play. And we'll be having a discussion with the chancellor and leadership on exactly what the scope of these of the attributes should be and how we should identify those benchmarks. They make a big difference because you put your finger right on it. In addition to that, for non-institution or non-higher education, the surveys we use can be more refined. We can refine it right down to Oakland, for example. So some of the cost of living is built into, if you will, how employers are responding currently with salary movement and salary increases.
Thank you very much. I'm really looking forward to the study and the outcome. I think it'll really be generative in terms of understanding equity within the district. We talk a lot about student equity. I'm excited to be talking about worker equity. Thank you.
2 equities, external comparisons, internal equity as well. Keep those in mind.
Trustee Johannes?
Hi, just as everyone has said, thank you again for this presentation. So I guess my question is more in like sort of an example form. So for example, we have a classified employee working before the pandemic. They have a job description. All right, pandemic happens. They have additional duties, which I think all of us have had, which more so relate to technology because we're off campus, correct? And so now they're doing different duties from their job. That's during a crisis, understood. We sort of return to work. Not only do they have the original duties, but they keep the technology duties as well. So when we do this study, if it turns out that this job that they have, it won't even really be an update of a job description. It's a completely different job. So twofold, if it's a completely different job or separate to 2 individual jobs to separate them, is there some sort of framework that is already in place that y'all have dealt with to address an issue like that, where someone can be at one level and because their job has added so many different duties to them, that they should be in a completely different sphere of or department or what have you, whatever you want to call it?
Yes, it's very possible we could end up with a different job classification
Completely. And
than
we
the position
have-
is currently classified as. Not necessarily one that already exists even. Okay.
Right, okay.
So, yeah,
Right.
it could change, and gosh, work has really changed. I mean, pandemic kind of changed work.
Yeah.
In many different ways. So you're very wise to start with an update of your job descriptions, understanding what duties and responsibilities are being performed.
Okay, but we are ready to address that if we realize that, yeah, they've been doing a completely different job and we should have been addressing that prior for quite some time now.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
You're still not let go. To piggyback on that, because I think that that's such an interesting question. Has that been part of the framework in your industry though? Because everybody has changed in terms of COVID and what we used to do and what we are doing. And so has that variable been put into a framework so that there's a norming that comes as a result of that? Because within the industry, because everybody's dealt with it. And I'm just curious as to whether it's been integrated into a framework so that it doesn't skew things so differently, because it's part of our normal day-to-day now. I'm not sure if I articulated that well enough.
I hope I'm being responsive to your question on this, but a reason for looking at individual positions is because there are so many variables involved. We begin with 4 different variables with 4 different colleges and the district office itself. So those are things many in staff positions, unlike faculty positions, for example, but in staff positions, organizational structure makes a difference sometimes. Management styles make a difference. Whether we work remote or in person tends to also impact scopes of responsibility. Scope of supervision is also another factor. So there's a lot of these factors that come into play. Our hope is that by looking at individual positions that we're able to identify and pull together the predominance of the duties and responsibilities of a group of jobs and describe them accurately. I don't know if I was responsive to your question or not, but any other questions?
Anyone else?
But I've been instructed that when there are no more further questions, you better get out of there.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Seem like we have any other questions or comments, so thank you very much. Love your presentation. Okay, moving right along, let's go to 5.1, approval of all consent items. You hear a motion?
Move approval of 5.1, approval of all consent items.
Thank you, trustee Withrow.
Second.
Thank you, trustee Gonzalez-Wen. Seeing no discussion, let's go ahead and move to a roll call.
Student trustee Masson,
Yes.
trustee Withrow,
Yes.
trustee Johannes,
Yes.
trustee Gonzalez Ewan,
Yes.
trustee Napoli Bellarice,
Yes.
trustee Gonzalez Brito,
Yes.
trustee Quinlan,
Yes.
trustee Delphine Polk.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. We will now move to action items.
You
10.1, consider
You can
review of
go.
the warrant. Excuse me? What? Sasha, did you say something?
Oh, sorry.
Okay, no worries. Consider review of the warrant payment report for the period covering September 1 through September 30th, 2023. Motion, please.
So moved.
Thank you. Second.
Second.
Thank you. Discussion, roll call.
Student trustee Masson,
Yes.
trustee Withrow,
Yes.
trustee Johannes,
Yes.
trustee Gonzalez Ewan,
Yes.
trustee Napoli Bellarice,
Yes.
trustee Gonzalez Brito,
Yes.
trustee Quinlan,
Abstain.
trustee Delphine Polk.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, 10.2, consider review of purchase order report for period covering September 1 through September 30th, 2023.
Move approval.
Thank you. Second.
Second.
Thank you. And we'll move to roll call.
Student trustee Masson,
Yes.
trustee Withrow,
Yes.
trustee Johannes,
Yes.
trustee Gonzalez Yuan,
Yes.
trustee Napoli Bellarice,
Yes.
trustee Gonzalez Brito,
Yes.
trustee Quinlan,
Abstain.
trustee Delphine Polk.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Madam President, I'd like to
Yes.
move items 10.3, 10.4, and 10.5.
Great. Okay. Discussion. Let's move to a roll call.
I'm sorry, who was the second on that vote? Trustee Withrow, thank you,
Let's
sir.
Trustee Withrow.
Student trustee Masson,
Yes.
trustee Withrow,
Yes.
trustee Johannes,
Yes.
trustee Gonzalez Yuan,
Yes.
trustee Napoli Bellarice,
Yes.
trustee Gonzalez Brito,
Yes.
trustee Quinlan,
Yes.
trustee Delphine Polk.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. Let's move to Board of Trustees reports. Does anyone have a report? I see several hands up. Let's start from my left. Trustee Gonzalez Brito, go ahead.
Thank you, President Delphine Polk. I had the opportunity and the privilege to meet with Laura Gomez Contreras from Puente at Laney and to hear about the great program that is taking place there. And I look forward to attending future events. And heard from her about the hope that Laney will, and I mentioned this to that Laney will become a Hispanic serving institution, that there's an opportunity there and I think they meet the requirements to do that. And so that would be really wonderful if that happens. She also introduced me to Janelle Tillotson of Umoja, which I was pleased to meet with and will be meeting with in the future. One more thing I forgot to mention was that Laura Gomez Contreras mentioned that, and I think I heard this in the Academic Senate meeting as well, and I'm not sure I'm getting the names right, but that the ICC independent contractor are having trouble getting paid. And the Undocumented Student Center had to close for some time at Laney. So I hope that that's something that we can resolve. Thank you.
Trustee Johannes?
Yes, just 3 notes. So number one, I want to shout out a nonprofit organization well known in the East Bay called BOSS, or Building Opportunity for Self-Sufficiency, BOSS. Their mission is to help homeless, poor, and disabled people achieve health and self-sufficiency and to fight against root causes of poverty and homelessness. I say all this because on Thursday, they're having their 50th anniversary gala. I encourage everyone to purchase a fundraising ticket for the organization. I'll be there possibly with bells. If you'd like to see me with bells, please join. My second item is that I had gone to my second CAPC convention. CAPC stands for California Association of Black School Educators. And I actually accompanied VC Smith and our Executive Director of Public Safety, Tim Thomas, thank you, where they presented. They were presenters at this one. This convention was described as defying the odds. And so they presented on how we, as the district of Peralta District, were able to bring down crime, whether it's arson, burglary, what have you, on our campus without the use of sheriff, without the use of weapons, without the use of all the things. And a lot of other districts were very interested, specifically LA County, a few people in LA County, one in Compton. And so I just want to say that we are being noticed for something great. And I want to just shout out, thanks for the work and the help and just making this place feel a bit safer every day. We know what's out there, but it's getting better. And lastly, I just want to say best of luck to all the individuals interviewing tomorrow. Best of luck. That's it. I can't wait to learn more.
Yes, on Wednesday, the 18th, I had the opportunity to attend another 50-year anniversary. YEP, the Youth Employment Partnership, celebrated their 50th anniversary. It was a great presentation. They talked about over 50 years, they've served 35,000 young people in their program. They showed off their tiny homes that they'd built, their students had built, 7 units. And then they also, it was a chance to open their and show their new dormitory that they built for 30 students, that has 30 availability for 30 occupancies there for YAP students. I talked to several people in leadership there, and they expressed a great deal of interest in working closer with Peralta. They'd talked about in the past they worked, but the pandemic kind of, like a lot of other things, it kind of killed a lot of other projects. And so they talked about trying to get back and rebuild those continuity between students and their programs into our advanced, CT programs. So it was a great visit.
Colleagues, any other reports? Okay. Let's go ahead and move to our announcements. VP Quinlan.
So our announcements for October 24th, 2023. Open enrollment for spring 2024 semester begins November 15th, but students who want to finish faster can enroll now for winter intersession classes, College of Alameda. Earn 3 credits in only 3 weeks with classes starting in December. Visit www.alameda.edu for more information. Please join us tomorrow, October 25th, here in the boardroom starting at 12:30 p.m. for the Chancellor Finalist Public Forum. If you cannot join us here in person, the forums will be available via Zoom, webinar, and live streaming on Peralta's TV YouTube channel. As President Delphine Polk noted earlier tonight, the community will have until noon on Saturday, October 28th to submit your feedback. Feedback forms will be posted on the finalist pages of the website tomorrow morning. Visit www.peralta.edu, Chancellor search for details. And then save the date of December 15th, 2023 for the Hail and Farewell Gala, sponsored by the Peralta Association of African American Affairs. Please consider joining us for the celebration as we welcome our soon-to-be selected new chancellor, the Hail, and we honor Dr. Jackson as she transitions from interim chancellor back into a well-deserved retirement, the farewell. The event will be a Peralta Colleges Foundation fundraiser, and details on how to RSVP will be shared as soon as possible. There are many more events coming up at each of the colleges. Please visit www.peralta.edu and scroll down to events across the district to find details on upcoming events. I would also suggest that you can probably look at the college websites also for more detail. That's it.
All right, and with that, we are adjourned. Thank you all very much, and we'll see you tomorrow.